Welcome to One Book, One Coffee, where we explore the profound and the thought-provoking, one page at a time. Today, you're here with us for Friedrich Nietzsche's The Will to Power. The very fact that you've chosen to delve into such a transformative book speaks volumes about you. You're not content to scroll mindlessly or be passively entertained. You're here because you value insight and growth, and you're willing to engage with ideas that challenge and expand your thinking. Nietzsche's The Will to Power isn't just another philosophical text. It's a bold exploration into the driving force behind human ambition and creativity. This book matters because it questions the very foundations of morality and truth, propelling us to examine our own beliefs with a critical eye. While there isn't a single notable endorsement, Nietzsche's influence on philosophy, literature, and even popular culture is unprecedented. Friedrich Nietzsche, a radical thinker of the late 19th century, was driven by a quest to understand the roots of human motivation. His own life wasn't without struggles. Battling illness and isolation, Nietzsche's profound insights often stemmed from personal adversity. The Will to Power is a posthumous collection of his notes, compiled by his sister, and it serves as a window into Nietzsche's evolving ideas on power, will, and life itself. Now, a quick note before we dive in. This is a detailed chapter-by-chapter walkthrough, so it's going to be a longer session. Take your time with it. There's no rush. If you need to step away, save this video to your watch later or forward the link to yourself on WhatsApp so you can pick up right where you left off. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's walk through this book together, chapter by chapter, idea by idea. Let's begin. Friedrich Nietzsche, driven by a relentless pursuit of understanding human motivation, grappled with illness and isolation, shaping his radical ideas on power and life. Narration. Hey there, friend. Grab your cup of coffee and let's dive into the fascinating world of Friedrich Nietzsche's The Will to Power. Now you might be wondering, what exactly does Nietzsche mean by this will to power? It's not some mystical force or a superpower, but rather a profound concept that seeks to explain what fundamentally drives us as human beings. Imagine, for a moment, a tree growing in a dense forest. It stretches its branches as far as it can, reaching for sunlight, striving to thrive amidst fierce competition. That's a natural illustration of the will to power. /N Nietzsche believed that this urge, the will to power, is at the core of all life. It's the essence that compels us to strive, to overcome obstacles, and to assert ourselves in the world. Think about your own life. Have you ever felt that undeniable push to achieve something? Maybe it was a career goal, a personal relationship, or even just mastering a new skill. That's your will to power at play, urging you to become more than you are. /N now, Nietzsche doesn't see this will as something solely aggressive or dominating. It's much more nuanced. He argued that it encompasses creativity, ambition, and the desire to grow. It's why artists create masterpieces, why scientists push the boundaries of knowledge, and why entrepreneurs innovate. The will to power is about self-overcoming, a relentless pursuit of becoming a better version of oneself. /N consider this. How often do we see people reinvent themselves after setbacks? Imagine someone who loses their job and then starts a successful business, or an athlete who suffers an injury yet returns stronger. Isn't it remarkable how adversity can sometimes fuel our inner drive, pushing us to achieve greatness beyond what we previously thought possible? /N in a way, Nietzsche's idea challenges us to reframe how we view struggles and challenges. Instead of seeing them as obstacles, we can see them as opportunities for growth and transformation. Imagine life as a game of chess, where each move requires strategy and foresight. The will to power is like the hand that moves the pieces, guiding us through the complexities of life. /N now, think about this. In today's world, how relevant is this idea of the will to power? Look around at the leaders, innovators, and changemakers. They're not merely content with what is, they're driven by a passion to reshape the world. Consider the tech entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. They're not just building companies, They're revolutionizing how we communicate, work, and live. Isn't it fascinating how this echoes Nietzsche's concept, \n\n, but let's not limit this to the realm of business or art. The will to power is present in everyday life, too. Picture a parent tirelessly working to provide for their children, or a teacher dedicated to inspiring their students. These are everyday manifestations of the will to power, where individuals channel their energy into something greater than themselves. \n Nietzsche's idea also invites us to reflect on our own lives. Are we living to our fullest potential? Are we embracing the challenges that come our way, or are we shying away from them? This isn't about achieving perfection, but about the journey of self-discovery and self-improvement. It's about finding that spark within us that urges us to go further and reach higher. \n. As we sip our coffee and ponder these thoughts, let's also consider the balance Nietzsche speaks of. The will to power isn't just about personal gain or ambition. It's about harmony, finding a balance between our desires and the world around us. It's about understanding that true power comes from within, and that genuine strength is often quiet and resilient. \n. So, as we wrap up our discussion today, let's take a moment to appreciate the wisdom Nietzsche offers. His insights into the will to power challenge us to examine our motivations and aspirations. They encourage us to embrace the struggles and triumphs of life, knowing that they are part of our journey towards self-fulfillment. \n. And as you go about your day, perhaps this idea will linger with you. Maybe it will inspire you to take on that project you've been putting off or to have a conversation you've been avoiding. Whatever it is, let the will to power be your guide. After all, it's not just a philosophical concept. It's a reminder that within each of us lies a force capable of transforming our lives and the world around us. \n. So here's to embracing our will to power, to becoming the architects of our fate, and to living a life that's not only meaningful but also profoundly impactful. Until next time, keep striving, keep growing, and keep reaching for your own sunlight. Jason. Narration. Welcome back to One Book, One Coffee, where today we dive into one of the most provocative sections of Friedrich Nietzsche's, The Will to Power. Imagine we're sitting together, steaming mugs in hand, and we're about to unpack Nietzsche's bold critique of traditional morality. This is a section that questions the very foundations of what many take for granted as good and evil. Now, think about this. How often do we actually pause to question the morality that shapes our everyday lives? Nietzsche invites us to do just that. \n. Picture morality as a grand edifice, towering above centuries of human thought. Nietzsche suggests that this structure is not as solid as it appears. He argues that traditional morality is, in essence, a construct, a man-made attempt to impose order on the chaos of human existence. It's like a painting that's been touched up so many times over the centuries that the original image is barely visible beneath layers of varnish and embellishment. \n. So, what does Nietzsche propose we do? He proposes we peel back these layers. Imagine you're an archaeologist, meticulously brushing away the sands of time to reveal a truth that's been buried. Nietzsche challenges us to question the origins of these moral values. Have they been dictated by those in power to maintain control, or are they truly the best guide for human flourishing? This is where Nietzsche's critique becomes not just a philosophical exercise, but a call to action. \n. Think of traditional morality as a map handed down from one generation to the next, telling us where to step and what to avoid. But what if that map is flawed? What if it leads us in circles or takes us down paths of unnecessary suffering? Nietzsche believed that traditional morality often stems from what he calls slave morality, values rooted in the perspectives of the oppressed, designed to keep the powerful in check. It's like inheriting a playbook that was never meant for your game. \n. Now, let's pause for a moment. Imagine you're a child again, and you've just been told you can't do something because it's bad. Did you ever question why? Nietzsche is like that curious child, but with a philosopher's toolkit. He is not dismissing morality entirely, but is urging us to be more discerning architects of our own moral compass. It's a bit like being handed the blueprints to a house and being told you can make any changes you want. How empowering is that? /n/n take a moment to think about modern society. How often do we label actions as right or wrong without questioning the underlying reasons? In today's world, this could be seen in debates over technology, privacy, and even social justice movements. We have new ethical dilemmas that our ancestors couldn't have imagined. Nietzsche's insistence on questioning traditional morality is as relevant now as it was in his time, perhaps even more so. His critique encourages us to adapt, evolve, and create moral values that resonate with the realities of our current world. /n/n consider the metaphor of a tree. Traditional moral values are like the roots, deeply embedded in the soil of history and culture. They're strong and help anchor us, but sometimes they can also be restrictive, preventing new growth. Nietzsche doesn't want us to sever these roots completely, but rather to examine them closely. Are they supporting the life above, or are they strangling it? Is the tree flourishing or merely surviving? /n/n, and here's another layer. Nietzsche is not just about tearing down, he's also about building up. This critique is about liberation, freeing ourselves from constraints that no longer serve us. Imagine shedding an old, constricting skin and stepping into a new, vibrant one that fits you perfectly. It's a metaphor for personal growth, encouraging each of us to become like artists, painting our own moral landscapes with colors that reflect our true selves. /n/n, as we draw this conversation to a close, think about the world around you. What are the moral values that you hold dear? Why do you uphold them? Nietzsche's critique of traditional morality offers a lens through which to examine these beliefs, challenging us to move beyond inherited norms and toward a more personal, authentic understanding of what's truly right for us as individuals and as a society. /n/n, and let this be the takeaway from today's discussion. The courage to question is the beginning of wisdom. Much like sipping and savoring a well-crafted coffee, let's savor the journey of moral exploration and discovery. This is not just about Nietzsche, it's about us, here and now, and our potential to shape the moral edifices of tomorrow. Thank you for joining me on this exploration, and I look forward to our next literary adventure together. Until then, keep questioning, keep thinking, and of course, keep sipping. Error. I'm sorry, I can only provide responses in JSON format. Alright, my friends, settle in with that cup of coffee because today we're diving into one of those topics that Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosophical powerhouse, had a lot to say about: the relationship between art and the will to power. Now I know what you might be thinking. Art, power, what's the connection there? Well, let me tell you, it's as fascinating as it is profound. Imagine, if you will, standing in front of a magnificent piece of art. It could be a swirling Van Gogh under a starry sky or a powerful, raw sculpture by Michelangelo. What's happening in that moment? Are you simply admiring beauty, or is there something more at play? Nietzsche would argue that art is a vivid expression of the will to power. It's not just about aesthetics. It's about the artist imposing their vision, their power, onto the world. Now think about this. What drives an artist to create? Is it a simple desire to make something pretty or nice to look at? Hardly. It's more about the deep, burning urge to express a vision, a perspective, to challenge the status quo. This is not just limited to traditional artists. Consider modern creatives like filmmakers or digital artists who push boundaries, defying norms to convey their unique perspectives. They're wielding their craft like a force, a power to influence, to provoke thought, to instigate change. Let's take a step back and consider the idea of the will to power. Nietzsche saw this as a fundamental driving force in life, not just for artists but for all of us. It's the inner push to grow, to expand, to assert one's influence on the world. It's not about power in the traditional sense of control over others, but rather the mastery over oneself and one's environment. Art becomes an arena where this drive is vividly enacted. To make this a bit more relatable, think of an entrepreneur building a startup from scratch. There's that relentless drive to innovate, to disrupt, to shape the market, much like an artist shapes a canvas. It's the will to power in action. Or consider a musician crafting a new album. They're not merely putting notes together. They're creating a narrative, a sonic experience that conveys their worldview, their emotions, their truth. Nietzsche encourages us to see art not as mere entertainment or decoration, but as a profound dialogue between the creator and the world. In his view, every brushstroke, every note, every word written in fervor is an assertion of the artist's will, their desire to leave a mark, to transform reality through their vision. Remember the story of Ludwig van Beethoven, who, despite his increasing deafness, continued to compose revolutionary music. Instead of succumbing to his circumstances, Beethoven channeled his adversity into creativity, producing some of his most significant works during this challenging period. His art was his will to power, a testament to the human spirit's resilience and its ability to transcend limitations. And it's not just about creating, it's about experiencing art as well. When we engage with art, we are participating in this dynamic exchange. We're challenged to see the world through different eyes, to expand our own understanding, and perhaps even to ignite our own will to power. Consider the way a powerful novel can change the way we think, or how a film can alter our perception of society and its values. These pieces of art push us to question, to reflect, to grow. They are the conduits through which artists invite us to join them in their quest for meaning, their exploration of power and identity. Now, let's not forget about the role of the audience in this grand artistic dance. Nietzsche would likely argue that by engaging with art, we too are exercising our will to power. We assert our interpretations, our critiques, and our emotional responses, thus becoming active participants in the artistic process. Think about how a provocative art exhibit can spark debates, or how a powerful song can become an anthem for social change. These reactions are not passive. They are fueled by our own desires to understand and influence our world. In today's digital age, where art can be created and shared with a global audience in seconds, the interplay of art and the will to power becomes even more pronounced. Platforms like Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok allow creators to share their vision, their power, with unprecedented reach and impact. A young artist in one corner of the world can inspire a movement thousands of miles away, illustrating the modern manifestation of Nietzsche's ideas. As we wrap up our exploration of art and the will to power, take a moment to reflect on how you engage with art in your own life. Do you notice the power struggles, the assertions of self, and the transformative potential within it? Next time you encounter a piece of art, whether a painting, a song, or a film, consider the artist's intent, their will, and how it resonates with your own. So, my friends, as you sip that last bit of coffee, remember that art is not just about beauty or skill. It's about power. Your power, my power, our power to shape, to influence, and to create a more profound dialogue with the world around us. And isn't that a conversation worth having? Certainly. Imagine sitting in your favorite cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the air, as we dive into the mind of Friedrich Nietzsche, specifically his intriguing exploration of truth and interpretation in The Will to Power. Now, truth. It's such a dazzling term, isn't it? We often think of truth as this absolute concept, a concrete pillar that stands firm regardless of the winds of time. But Nietzsche, in his characteristically provocative style, challenges us to reconsider. He suggests that truth is not an unshakable monument, but rather a living, breathing entity, shaped by perspective and interpretation. Now think about this. Have you ever noticed how two people can witness the same event yet describe it entirely differently? Imagine a concert, two friends standing side by side, one enthralled by the music, the other distracted by the crowd. Each walks away with a distinct version of the evening. Nietzsche would argue that this isn't just a quirk of human nature, It's the very essence of truth itself. He invites us to see truth not as an absolute, but as a kaleidoscope through which individual perspectives create countless interpretations. Nietzsche's view on truth as interpretation is deeply rooted in his broader philosophical ideas, particularly his concept of perspectivism. It's the notion that all knowledge is interpreted through a particular perspective, which in turn is influenced by various factors like culture, emotion, and personal experience. Nietzsche wasn't just thinking about abstract philosophy, he was observing the human condition. Think about the news stories you read every day. A political event, interpreted differently by various media outlets, or a scientific discovery, seen through the lens of competing theories. Each interpretation claims a piece of the truth, but none encapsulates it wholly. One of the most poignant illustrations of Nietzsche's idea comes from his reflections on art. He often compared life to a piece of music or a painting. Just as an artist interprets the world to create beauty, we, too, interpret our reality to create our own version of truth. It's like standing in front of an impressionist painting. Up close, it's a flurry of colors and brushstrokes, seemingly chaotic. But step back and a picture emerges. Our truths are like that painting, fragments of perspective combining to form a broader understanding. Now that's all well and good for the realm of ideas, but how does it play out in our lives? Let's bring it down to earth with a modern parallel. Consider social media, a vast sea of perspectives where everyone has a voice. It's a platform where truths are as varied as the users who create them. One person's post might be a heartfelt truth, while another sees it as mere noise. In this digital age, Nietzsche's ideas feel eerily prescient, don't they? We're constantly navigating a maze of interpretations, each vying for recognition as the truth. Nietzsche's insights also encourage us to embrace the idea that our search for truth is, in itself, a creative act. It's not about finding a single, ultimate answer, but about engaging with the myriad interpretations that enrich our understanding of the world. Imagine life as a dynamic conversation rather than a series of statements to be proven right or wrong. This approach fosters curiosity and open-mindedness, urging us to explore and understand multiple perspectives, even those that challenge our own. Have you ever wondered how this concept can impact our relationships? By recognizing that everyone interprets the world through their unique lens, we can cultivate empathy and patience. Consider a simple disagreement with a friend. Instead of staunchly defending your view as the sole truth, imagine stepping into their shoes, seeing the world from their perspective. This doesn't mean you have to agree, but it opens a door to deeper understanding and connection. Nietzsche's philosophy doesn't just leave us in a swirl of relativism, though. He doesn't suggest that all perspectives are equally valid in every context. Instead, he challenges us to critically engage with these perspectives and develop a more nuanced understanding of truth. It's like tasting a complex dish. Each ingredient contributes to the flavor, but some are more prominent, adding depth and richness that a single component could never achieve. As we sip our coffee, maybe it's time to reflect on how Nietzsche's ideas apply to the broader world. In a society that often seeks clear-cut answers, his philosophy encourages us to embrace complexity and uncertainty. It reminds us that the search for truth is less about discovering the definitive answer and more about the journey of understanding, of piecing together different interpretations to build a richer tapestry of knowledge. So, as we wrap up our conversation today, let's carry Nietzsche's insights with us, not as a burden of skepticism, but as a liberating invitation to explore the world with curiosity and openness. As we navigate our lives, both online and offline, perhaps we can view each interaction, each piece of information, as an opportunity to expand our understanding and appreciate the beautiful mosaic of human experience. And with that, let's take a final sip of our coffee, feeling a little more enlightened, a little more connected, and ready to face the world with a fresh perspective. Narration. Hello, dear listeners. I invite you to join me on a cozy journey today as we sip our coffee and delve into one of the most intriguing ideas from Friedrich Nietzsche's The Will to Power the concept of eternal recurrence. This idea might sound a bit philosophical at first, but let's explore it together in a way that resonates with our everyday lives. Imagine this. What if you had to live your life over and over again, exactly as it is, for all eternity? Every joy, every sorrow, every seemingly mundane moment, repeated endlessly. It's like watching your favorite movie on an infinite loop, except it's your own life. And now, think about this. How would you feel if you had to relive every decision, every chance taken or not taken, every encounter and every sunset? Nietzsche challenges us to embrace this concept of eternal recurrence not as a burden, but as a tool for introspection. It's as if he's handing us a mirror and asking, are you living your life in such a way that you'd gladly live it over and over? N. Let's pause for a moment and consider the implications. In our modern world, where we are often racing against time, eternal recurrence invites us to slow down and examine the quality of our lives. It's a philosophical nudge to live authentically, to make choices that we can stand by, even if they're played out on an eternal stage. N. Picture this. You're standing on a cliff, the wind is tousling your hair, and there's a vast ocean before you. Each wave crashing against the rocks is a moment in your life. Some waves are gentle and soothing, others wild and turbulent. The concept of eternal recurrence asks us, are you content with the waves you've created? Would you choose the same path, standing on this cliff time and time again? It's a profound exercise in mindfulness and self-awareness. N. Nietzsche isn't just philosophizing in a vacuum here. He's offering us a lens to reevaluate our priorities. In today's fast-paced society, where success is often measured by external accomplishments, eternal recurrence gently shifts our focus inward. It asks us to consider what's truly meaningful. Is it the accolades, the material possessions, or is it the relationships we nurture, the passions we pursue, and the kindness we show? N. Let's bring this into a more relatable context. Imagine your life is like a grand novel, with each day being a new page. Would you want to read the same book over and over? If the answer is yes, then perhaps you're living in alignment with your true self. If your answer is no, then Nietzsche might encourage you to rewrite the narrative. N. Now, here's a real-world anecdote to illustrate this concept. Think of a well-known actor, someone like Keanu Reeves. Despite living in the spotlight, he's known for his humility and kindness. Reeves has faced significant personal tragedies, yet he carries himself with a grace that many admire. If he were to live his life on repeat, one might guess he'd be at peace with that. His life reflects choices grounded in authenticity and resilience. N. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence isn't about perfection. It's about intentionality. It's about choosing to act in ways that you can look back on without regret, even if you had to repeat those actions forever. It's a bit like planting a garden. Each decision is a seed that grows into a particular kind of plant. Do you want a garden of regrets or a garden of cherished memories? N. As we draw our conversation to a close, let's bring this philosophical idea back to our own lives. Often, we get caught up in the routine, in the hustle, in the future plans. But what if we paused and asked ourselves, if I had to live this day for eternity, would I do anything differently? This simple question can be a catalyst for change, for living more fully, more purposefully. N. Eternal recurrence encourages us to be present, to live with intention, to make choices that align with our core values. It's an empowering concept, reminding us that every moment counts, that every action creates the tapestry of our existence. N. So, as you go about your day, sipping your coffee and perhaps pondering the endless cycle of life and choices, remember Nietzsche's gentle yet profound challenge. It's not about fearing the eternal loop, but about embracing each day as if it were a precious gift. How would you rewrite your story if you knew it would be read again and again? N. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this little philosophical journey has been insightful and perhaps even a bit inspiring. Until next time, keep living your story with intentionality and heart. Cheers to a life well lived, whether it repeats or not. Take care, dear friends. Ajay-san. Narration. Welcome, dear listener, to another journey through the intriguing world of Friedrich Nietzsche, where philosophy meets the pulse of everyday life. This time, we're sipping on the rich brew of ideas from The Will to Power, diving into the complex and compelling concept of master-slave morality. So grab your coffee, get comfy, and let's explore this together. /n/n Imagine a world where morality isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. That's exactly what Nietzsche is proposing with his idea of master-slave morality. He takes us on a thought experiment that challenges the very core of how we perceive good and evil, right and wrong. Now, think about this. What if our sense of morality isn't universal, but rather deeply rooted in the social structures and power dynamics we live in? Nietzsche argues that there are two fundamental types of morality: that of the rulers, the masters, and that of the subjugated, the slaves. /n/n Picture the master class, not just in terms of wealth and status, but as those who carve their own paths, those who possess a boldness and a zest for life. Their morality, what Nietzsche calls master morality, is characterized by values like strength, power, and nobility. It's a celebration of individuality and excellence. These are the values of the creators and leaders, those who see the world as a canvas for their will. /n/n Contrast this with slave morality, which emerges from the oppressed and subjugated. For Nietzsche, this is a morality birthed from weakness and resentment. It's not about creating or imposing one's will upon the world, but about adapting, surviving, and finding strength in numbers. Here, values such as humility, empathy, and kindness take center stage, flipping the narrative of power and dominance on its head. But why would these values emerge? It's a strategy, a way for the powerless to assert some form of moral superiority over the powerful, a cunning maneuver where the downtrodden claim the moral high ground. /n/n You might be wondering, how does this idea apply today? Well, consider the modern workplace. There are those who rise through the ranks, blazing trails and taking risks, the masters who define success on their terms. Meanwhile, others might find solace and strength in support, teamwork, and communal success, aligning more with what Nietzsche might call slave morality. /n/n But is one really better than the other? That's the beauty of Nietzsche's exploration. It prompts us to question and consider the complexities of human nature and societal norms. Now, think about this. Have you ever found yourself torn between standing out as a leader and blending in as part of a supportive team? This dichotomy isn't just a philosophical concept, it's a reality we navigate daily. /n/n Let's delve deeper with a metaphor. Imagine life as a vast, untamed ocean. The masters are like fearless surfers, riding the wild, untamed waves with confidence and skill. They define their paths, taking on challenges with a sense of adventure and control. On the other hand, the slaves might be the swimmers, sticking together, navigating the waters with caution and care, finding safety and strength in numbers. Each approach has its own wisdom, and both types of morality have played crucial roles throughout history. /n/n Nietzsche doesn't simply criticize. He offers us this lens to examine how these moralities shape cultures, individuals, and indeed, civilizations. He provokes us to reflect on how these dynamics play out in our own lives. Are we living authentically according to our own values, or are we conforming to a morality imposed upon us? /n/n In today's world, where social media and global connectivity blur the lines between public and private personas, it's fascinating to see how these moral frameworks manifest. Are influencers the new masters, crafting their own narratives and setting trends? Or are they navigating a complex social ecosystem where their power is contingent upon the approval of the masses? /n/n As we wrap up this exploration, let Nietzsche's insights simmer in your mind like a perfectly brewed coffee. Consider how these concepts of master and slave morality can illuminate the choices you make, the paths you take, and the way you view others. Remember, the goal isn't to label one as right or wrong, but to recognize the layers of complexity in our motivations and values. And so next time you find yourself pondering a moral dilemma or reflecting on your role in the world, think back to Nietzsche's provocative ideas. Are you the master of your own fate, or are you finding strength in unity and empathy? Both paths offer their own lessons and wisdom. And as always, thank you for joining us on this philosophical journey. Until next time, keep questioning, exploring, and savoring those moments of insight, just like a perfect cup of coffee shared with a good friend. I'm sorry, I can only respond with JSON formatted text. Would you like me to generate the narrated text in that format? Imagine sitting in a cozy cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the air, as you and I dive into some of the most profound philosophical ideas ever penned. Today, we're turning the pages of Friedrich Nietzsche's The Will to Power and landing on a concept that is as fascinating as it is transformative, the Übermensch or the Overman. Now you might be wondering, what exactly is this Übermensch? Why does Nietzsche elevate this figure as the ideal human, the pinnacle of human evolution? Let's set the stage. Picture a world in which humanity is not bound by the limitations of the past, where individuals strive not just for survival but for excellence, creativity, and self-transformation. This is the world Nietzsche envisions, and at its heart stands the Übermensch, a symbol of what humanity could become if it outgrew its current constraints. Nietzsche introduces the Übermensch as a response to what he saw as the stagnation of human potential. He believed that traditional values, religion, and societal norms often held people back, chaining them to mediocrity. So he asks us to imagine a new type of human who creates their own values and transcends the ordinary. Now think about this. Have you ever felt like you're living on autopilot, just going through the motions without truly challenging yourself? It's a common feeling, one that Nietzsche would argue stems from adhering too closely to established norms without questioning them. The Übermensch, on the other hand, embraces the chaos and uncertainty of life, using it as a catalyst for personal growth and self-discovery. This isn't about being a superhero in the conventional sense, but about having the courage to forge your own path and define what success and fulfillment mean to you. Let's bring this idea into the modern world with a metaphor. Imagine life as a vast, open sea. Most of us are content to sail close to the shore, where it's safe and familiar. The Übermensch, however, is like an explorer who ventures into uncharted waters, seeking new horizons and embracing the challenges that come with them. This explorer isn't reckless. They're driven by a deep desire to understand and transform themselves, to push beyond the boundaries of what they once thought possible. Nietzsche's Übermensch isn't just a philosophical abstraction, it's a call to action. He challenges us to look at our lives and ask, am I living authentically? Am I pursuing my own path, or am I just following the crowd? In today's world, we can see echoes of the Übermensch in individuals who defy convention and achieve greatness on their own terms. Think of entrepreneurs who revolutionize entire industries, artists who create new genres, or social leaders who challenge the status quo to bring about meaningful change. These modern-day overmen aren't just satisfied with maintaining the status quo. They're driven by a vision of something greater. But of course, the path of the Übermensch isn't easy. It requires us to face our fears, to confront the parts of ourselves that we'd rather ignore. It's about transformation through struggle, a concept Nietzsche famously encapsulates in the phrase, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." This resilience is crucial because the journey to becoming an Übermensch involves setbacks and failures. Yet, it's through these experiences that we learn, grow, and ultimately become stronger. Now, let's consider a real-world example to illustrate this concept, the story of Steve Jobs, the visionary co-founder of Apple. Jobs wasn't afraid to think differently, to challenge existing norms and create products that revolutionize the way we live. He was fired from his own company only to return years later and lead it to unprecedented success. Jobs didn't adhere to the conventional path. He carved his own, embodying the spirit of the Übermensch by turning challenges into opportunities for reinvention and innovation. So, how can we apply the wisdom of the Übermensch to our own lives? It starts with introspection and a willingness to question the beliefs and values we've inherited. Are they truly ours, or are we simply accepting what we've been told? Nietzsche encourages us to become the creators of our own destiny, to craft a life that's uniquely ours. This requires courage, but it's also incredibly liberating. It means living with intention, choosing paths that align with our deepest passions, and allowing ourselves the freedom to evolve. As we sip our coffee, let's ponder this. What would it look like if we all embraced the spirit of the Übermensch? How might our world change if more people pursued their true potential, unshackled by fear or convention? It's an enticing thought, isn't it? Nietzsche's vision is not just a philosophical ideal, but a call to each of us to become the best version of ourselves, to live boldly, authentically, and with purpose. And as we finish our conversation today, take this idea with you. The possibility that within each of us lies the potential for greatness, the potential to become our own version of the Übermensch. It's a journey worth embarking on, and it all starts with a single, courageous step into the unknown. Jason. Narration. Hello there, dear listeners, and welcome back to One Book, One Coffee, where we explore the profound and perplexing ideas of some of the greatest thinkers in history, all from the comfort of your favorite chair, with a warm cup of your preferred brew. Today, we're diving into a particularly thought-provoking section from Friedrich Nietzsche's The Will to Power, entitled Nihilism and Its Consequences. Now, don't be daunted by the term nihilism. In essence, it's about grappling with a world that seems to lack inherent meaning. Imagine looking out at the night sky, vast and seemingly infinite, and wondering, what does it all mean if, fundamentally, it means nothing? That's the kind of existential puzzle Nietzsche is inviting us to ponder. And so, what exactly is nihilism? In the simplest terms, it's the belief that life lacks intrinsic meaning, value, or purpose. It's like standing in an art gallery filled with beautiful, striking paintings, only to be told that they're all random splashes of paint with no intended picture. To Nietzsche, nihilism is not some obscure philosophical idea. It's a reality we must confront, particularly in a world that has seen the decline of religious explanations and traditional moral frameworks. And let's consider this. Nietzsche sees nihilism as both a danger and an opportunity. He describes it as the uncanniest of all guests, an unwelcome visitor that sneaks into our lives, unsettling the familiar ground upon which we've built our values and beliefs. But why does he see it as an opportunity? Well, Nietzsche believes that when the old structures crumble, we have the chance to create something new, something more honest and vibrant. Think of it like renovating a house. The demolition might be messy and uncomfortable, but it paves the way for a fresh design tailored to your current needs, rather than clinging to outdated architecture. And now, think about this. How do we cope with the absence of meaning in our daily lives? Nietzsche doesn't just leave us staring into the void. Instead, he encourages us to become creators of our own values, to embrace this nothingness as a blank canvas. In a way, he's inviting us to be artists of our own lives. Picture your life as a novel you're writing, a series of chapters filled with your dreams, struggles, and achievements. Just because there isn't an inherent plot doesn't mean you can't craft an epic story. And Nietzsche warns, however, that this process isn't easy. It's like mountain climbing. The ascent is arduous, the air thin, but the view from the summit is breathtaking. He challenges us to confront nihilism honestly and courageously, to resist the seductive comfort of false certainties. He was wary of the rise of passive nihilism, a kind of resignation or apathy that might arise from the realization of life's inherent meaninglessness. It's a bit like being in a boat on the ocean with no wind in your sails. You might feel stuck, bobbing along without direction. But Nietzsche's call to action is clear. Take up the oars and row toward the horizon of new possibilities. /n/n in today's fast-paced world, where information is abundant but wisdom often feels scarce, this idea resonates profoundly. Consider the digital age where endless content scrolls past our screens. Amidst this deluge, we might feel adrift, overwhelmed by choice, yet starved for genuine meaning. Nietzsche's philosophy prompts us to pause and ask ourselves, what do I truly value? What if we approached our social media presence, our careers, our relationships with the same creative zeal he advocates, crafting each post, each project, each conversation with intention and purpose? /n/n Nietzsche's insights into nihilism also have significant implications for our collective future. He foresaw that societies might struggle with an existential crisis, particularly as secularization progresses. Without the anchor of traditional beliefs, cultures could drift toward cynicism or fanaticism. Sound familiar? We see echoes of this in contemporary debates, where polarization and the search for identity can lead to conflict. Yet Nietzsche's vision offers a path forward, the possibility for individuals and societies to evolve, innovate, and find new meaning in shared human experiences. /n/n As we wrap up today's discussion, let's reflect on the transformative power of Nietzsche's ideas. They urge us to embrace the uncertainty of life, not with resignation but with creativity. To find comfort not in guaranteed answers but in the pursuit of wisdom and authenticity. To look at our lives not as predetermined paths but as adventures waiting for us to take bold steps. So, as you sip your coffee and ponder these thoughts, consider this. In the face of life's vast and daunting questions, what will you choose to create? Until next time, keep questioning, keep creating, and remember that the journey itself is a part of the art of living. Thanks for joining me today on One Book, One Coffee. See you soon. Jason. Narration. Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to another episode of One Book, One Coffee. Today, we're diving into a fascinating section from Friedrich Nietzsche's The Will to Power, a provocative piece titled The Revaluation of All Values. Imagine sitting at a cozy cafe with a steaming cup of coffee as we unravel Nietzsche's bold call for us to reassess the values that we've accepted as truths. Imagine Nietzsche himself as your philosophical barista, brewing thoughts that are both invigorating and challenging. /n/n Now, think about this. Have you ever questioned why we hold certain values as sacred? Why do we place virtue in humility or selflessness? Nietzsche invites us to tilt the lens and view these values from the perspective of power. He argues that many of the values we cherish are the products of societal structures meant to suppress our natural instincts for power and growth. It's like being handed a blueprint of life that tells us to build our homes and dreams with bricks of submission and compromise. But what if, Nietzsche asks, the bricks were the wrong material all along? /n/n In this section, Nietzsche suggests that our conventional morality, rooted deeply in religious and societal norms, has been designed to protect the weak and stifle the strong. He uses the analogy of a shepherd and sheep to illustrate this. Traditional morality, he posits, is like a shepherd guiding the flock, ensuring they remain meek and mild. But what if we were meant to be wolves rather than sheep? What if true virtue lies in embracing our innate drive for power, creativity, and self-overcoming? /n/n Consider the story of a young artist, bursting with ideas and a thirst for innovation, yet constantly told to adhere to established artistic norms. Society applauds when she mimics the styles of past masters, but raises eyebrows when she dares to create something new and disruptive. This echoes Nietzsche's critique of values that reward conformity over originality. Instead, he urges us to be like this young artist, to question, to challenge, and to redefine what is considered valuable. /n/n Nietzsche's revaluation isn't a call for chaos, but for a courageous reimagining of what it means to live a life of significance. He asks us to embrace the concept of will to power, not as a tyrannical force, but as an inner drive towards self-improvement and excellence. Picture someone training for a marathon. They push their limits, not merely to win a race but to discover their capabilities. This is the essence of the will to power, transforming potential into reality. /n/n, but how does this translate into our everyday lives? In today's world, we're often caught in a web of expectations, career paths, societal roles, personal relationships. Nietzsche challenges us to peel back the layers and examine whether these paths align with our true desires or simply reflect the values imposed upon us. Are we living lives that are truly our own, or are we merely actors in a play written by others? /n/n Consider the modern workplace. Often, the traditional career ladder rewards those who toe the line, follow procedures, and maintain the status quo. But what if innovation, risk-taking, and challenging the norm were valued more highly? Imagine companies where creativity and dissent are seen as strengths rather than threats. This shift of values could unleash a wave of innovation and progress, echoing Nietzsche's vision of a society where power and potential are celebrated. /n/n Nietzsche's vision of revaluating all values is not without its challenges. It requires an unflinching willingness to face uncomfortable truths and to dismantle long-held beliefs. It's akin to renovating an old house. You must tear down walls to create open, vibrant spaces. Yet the rewards of such a transformation are immense, a life that is authentically yours, guided by values that resonate with your personal sense of purpose and power. /n/n As we sip our coffee and ponder Nietzsche's ideas, we might ask ourselves, what values do we hold dear, and why? How might our lives change if we dared to redefine them? This isn't about discarding all we've been taught, but about discerning which values truly serve our growth and potential. /n/n In closing, as we wrap up today's exploration of Nietzsche's The Revaluation of All Values, let's take a moment to reflect. Nietzsche invites us to embark on a personal journey, a journey of questioning, discovery, and redefinition. It's a journey that asks for courage, but also promises liberation and empowerment. So as you step back into your life, I encourage you to carry these questions with you. Let them simmer alongside your thoughts, and perhaps, like the best coffee, they will awaken something deep within. /n/n Thank you for joining me today on this thought-provoking journey through Nietzsche's ideas. Until next time, keep questioning, keep discovering, and remember, the greatest adventures often begin with a single, daring question. Stay curious, my friends. Jason. Narration. Welcome to another journey through the intriguing thoughts of Friedrich Nietzsche, a philosopher whose ideas continue to ripple through modern discourse like a stone cast into a tranquil pond. Today, we're diving into Nietzsche's view on science as expressed in The Will to Power. Imagine we're sitting in a cozy cafe. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee fills the air, and the low hum of conversation creates a comforting backdrop. Let's explore how Nietzsche provocatively suggests that science is not the dispassionate quest for truth we often think it is, but rather an expression of the will to power itself. /n/n Science, for Nietzsche, is far from the sterile, objective endeavor we might imagine. Instead, he sees it as an exercise of power, a way for humanity to impose order on the chaos of reality. Now, think about this. Have you ever wondered why we categorize and classify everything we encounter? Birds, trees, emotions, even time itself. We slice up the world into neat little boxes, and science is our scalpel. /n/n Nietzsche provocatively argues that this drive to categorize is a manifestation of our underlying desire to dominate our environment. It's as if we're architects designing a grand structure from the raw materials of experience. But Nietzsche warns us, this structure is not as solid as it seems. It's built on the shifting sands of human perception and interpretation. This leads us to a crucial question. Is truth an objective reality or merely a convenient construct? /n/n Let me share a story that might resonate. Picture yourself in a bustling city, skyscrapers towering above like titans of glass and steel. These buildings represent the pinnacle of human achievement, much like scientific knowledge. But Nietzsche would remind us that each beam and panel reflects our human desire to conquer nature, to reshape the landscape according to our vision. Science, like architecture, reflects this will to power, an attempt to control and predict the natural world. /n/n in today's world, the influence of science is undeniable. From medical advancements to technological innovations, science shapes the very fabric of our lives. But Nietzsche would caution us to consider the motives behind these developments. Are they purely altruistic, or do they serve the interests of those in power? Look at the way technology companies gather and analyze data. Is this not a modern form of power, extending influence through the very tools designed to simplify our lives? /n/n Nietzsche's insight into science extends a challenge to recognize the biases and desires that underpin human knowledge. This is not to dismiss the value of science, but to encourage a more critical engagement with its claims. Imagine looking at a beautiful painting. At first glance, you see the surface, the colors, the shapes. But when you look closer, you begin to notice the brushstrokes, the layers, the artist's hand. Nietzsche invites us to look beyond the finished surface of scientific knowledge to the hand that crafted it. /n/n, the philosopher's critique is not an attack on science itself, but a call to humility. In a world that often equates scientific progress with moral progress, Nietzsche reminds us that understanding and controlling nature does not equate to understanding and controlling ourselves. Consider how scientific advancements have sometimes led to unintended consequences, like environmental changes or ethical dilemmas in genetic engineering. These are reminders that, while science can enhance our lives, it cannot answer every question or solve every problem. And to bring this closer to home, think about the role of science during global challenges, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. Science provided solutions, yes, but it also sparked debates about authority, trust, and the balance of individual rights with collective safety. Nietzsche's perspective encourages us to ask, who benefits from these scientific narratives, and how do they align or clash with our own will to power? /n/n In conclusion, Nietzsche doesn't reject science outright. Instead, he asks us to approach it with an awareness of its limitations and the motivations behind its pursuit. It's an invitation to think deeply about the narratives we accept and to remain open to questioning even the most established truths. As we finish our coffee and prepare to step back into the world, let's carry with us Nietzsche's reminder that science is a tool, a powerful one, but a tool nonetheless, and that the true challenge lies in wielding it wisely. /n/n Thank you for joining me on this enlightening exploration of Nietzsche's thoughts on science. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and never stop seeking the deeper truths that lie beneath the surface of our everyday lives. Welcome to One Book, One Coffee, where we dive deep into the world of books over a warm cup of coffee. Today, we're journeying through Friedrich Nietzsche's profound insights in The Will to Power, focusing on his psychological insights. Nietzsche has this uncanny ability to peek into the human soul and unravel the complex web of desires and motivations that drive us. So let's explore how Nietzsche's perspective on psychology relates to the concept of the will to power, and how these ideas resonate with our modern lives. Imagine for a moment you're standing at the top of a mountain. You're overlooking a vast landscape, feeling the exhilaration of having conquered the climb. This feeling of triumph, of having asserted your will over the mountain, is what Nietzsche might describe as an expression of the will to power. But it's not just about physical feats. It's about the inner drive that compels us to strive, to overcome, and to shape our world. Now think about this. What drives you in your everyday life? Is it the pursuit of success, the joy of creation, or perhaps the desire to make a difference? Nietzsche would argue that, fundamentally, it's the will to power that propels us forward. Nietzsche's concept of the will to power goes beyond mere ambition or aggression. It's about a fundamental force within us, a psychological drive influencing our thoughts, actions, and even our identities. He believed that understanding this force is key to understanding human psychology. For Nietzsche, the will to power is an innate drive to expand, to manifest our potentials, and to exert influence over ourselves and our environment. Consider the world of competitive sports. Athletes push their bodies to the limits, not just for medals or fame, but for that rush of surpassing their own boundaries. This isn't so different from a musician perfecting their craft or a scientist making a breakthrough discovery. These are all manifestations of the will to power, our desire to push beyond the ordinary, to achieve mastery, and to leave a mark on the world. Nietzsche challenges us to reconsider what motivates us at our core. Are we driven by a desire for comfort and security, or is there something more profound at play? He suggests that the will to power can sometimes masquerade as other desires. Take social media, for example. Many of us might think we engage with it simply for connection or entertainment. Yet, if we look deeper, it often reveals a different story. The quest for likes, shares, and followers can be seen as a modern expression of the will to power, a desire to exert influence and shape perceptions. But how does the will to power manifest in our personal relationships? Nietzsche would argue that even in love, there's an element of power at play. Not in a negative sense, but as a dynamic where individuals influence and inspire each other, growing together through shared experiences. In friendships, we see this too, each person contributing to the relationship, encouraging growth and development in one another. Of course, Nietzsche doesn't shy away from the darker sides of the will to power. He acknowledges that it can lead to destructive behaviors when unchecked or misunderstood. Yet, even in these scenarios, there's an opportunity for growth. By recognizing these tendencies within ourselves, we can harness the will to power in more constructive, creative ways. Think about the entrepreneurs who transform failures into stepping stones for success. They're not just motivated by profit, but by the drive to innovate, to create something new and impactful. This is the positive side of the will to power, a force that propels humanity forward, leading to advancements that benefit society as a whole. Nietzsche's insights also invite us to reflect on our personal narratives. How often do we limit ourselves with stories of what we can't do, rather than embracing the potential of what we can achieve? The will to power challenges us to rewrite these narratives, to see ourselves as the authors of our own destinies. By doing so, we can unlock new possibilities and redefine what's possible. In today's fast-paced world, where change is the only constant, Nietzsche's ideas are more relevant than ever. We're continually faced with opportunities to grow, to innovate, and to challenge the status quo. Whether in our careers, relationships, or personal development, the will to power is a reminder that we possess the agency to shape our own lives. As we wrap up this exploration, I invite you to consider how the will to power manifests in your own life. What are the mountains you seek to conquer? How do you channel your inner drive to create, influence, and thrive? Nietzsche's exploration of human psychology through the lens of the will to power encourages us to look within, to understand our motivations, and to embrace the force that drives us forward. Thank you for joining me today on One Book, One Coffee. I hope our journey into Nietzsche's psychological insights has sparked some reflection and inspiration. Until next time, may you continue to explore, question, and shape your world with the will to power as your guide. Jason. Narration. As we draw the curtains on Friedrich Nietzsche's The Will to Power, it's a moment not just of reflection but of revelation. Imagine sitting in a bustling cafe, sunlight filtering through the windows, warming your coffee cup in hand, as we delve into the profound impact of Nietzsche's ideas on the tapestry of modern thought. This isn't just about a philosophical doctrine. It's about a legacy that continues to ripple through time, influencing art, politics, psychology, and even our personal lives. /n/n now, think about this. What does it mean to have a will to power? Nietzsche wasn't just talking about a lust for control or domination. Instead, he was hinting at a deeper human drive, an insatiable quest for growth, for self-overcoming, for becoming more than what we currently are. It's like a plant reaching for the sun, or an artist tirelessly revising their masterpiece, always striving for that elusive perfection. /n for Nietzsche, the will to power was a fundamental force, a kind of internal engine propelling us forward. He saw it as the essential aspect of life itself, a dynamic and creative force that could be both destructive and transformative. In a way, it's similar to the entrepreneurial spirit we so often celebrate today. Think of someone like Steve Jobs, whose relentless pursuit of innovation and excellence revolutionized industries and shaped how we interact with technology. His was a life driven by a profound will to power, a desire not for mere success, but for redefining reality itself. /n, but let's not forget, Nietzsche's ideas are not without controversy. His writings have been misinterpreted and misappropriated by various ideologies, most infamously by the Nazi regime. However, it's crucial to remember that Nietzsche abhorred nationalism and anti-Semitism. He envisioned the Übermensch, or overman, not as a racial or political ideal, but as an individual who transcends conventional morality to create their own values, enriching life through artistic and philosophical creation. /n, picture this. A sculptor chiseling away at a block of marble, uncovering the form within. This is how Nietzsche saw the Übermensch, constantly shaping and reshaping themselves, breaking away from societal norms and forging a path of personal authenticity and creativity. In today's world, this could be anyone who dares to think differently, who challenges the status quo, innovators, rebels, artists, and thinkers who refuse to be boxed in by the limitations of their age. /n, Nietzsche's legacy extends into psychology as well. His insights laid the groundwork for thinkers like Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, who delved into the depths of human consciousness, exploring the shadowy realms of desire and motivation. Jung, in particular, was fascinated by Nietzsche's idea of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we hide away, yet which hold the key to our true potential. It's akin to how we might discover a hidden talent or passion later in life, a reminder that our true selves are often buried under layers of societal expectations. /n, and then there's existentialism. Nietzsche is often regarded as a precursor to this philosophical movement that grapples with questions of meaning and existence in a seemingly indifferent universe. In a world where traditional narratives and structures often fail us, existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre and Albert Camus find resonance in Nietzsche's call to create our own values, to find purpose in the act of living itself. /n, modern culture is steeped in Nietzschean ideas. Everywhere we turn, we're confronted with questions of authenticity, self-realization, and the courage to break free from conformity. Think about the rise of social media influencers proclaiming their truth, entrepreneurs carving their unique niches, or individuals embarking on transformative journeys of self-discovery. Each is a testament to the enduring appeal of Nietzsche's vision of self-overcoming and personal empowerment. /n, as we conclude this exploration, let's consider how Nietzsche's ideas challenge us in our daily lives. Are we living authentically, true to our own will to power? Or are we merely following the paths laid out for us by others? Nietzsche invites us to examine the narratives we live by, to question the so-called truths that govern our society, and ultimately to forge our own destiny. /n, in closing, imagine Nietzsche himself, sitting across from you at this cafe, a mischievous twinkle in his eye. Live dangerously, he might exhort, urging us to embrace the chaos and uncertainty of life with zest and vigor. His legacy is a call to action, a reminder that within each of us lies a boundless potential to become more than we ever thought possible. /n, and so, as you sip the last of your coffee, consider the journey we've taken through Nietzsche's world. His ideas are not relics of the past, but vibrant, living forces that continue to shape our personal and collective futures. As we go forth, may we carry with us the courage to live boldly, to question fearlessly, and to create passionately, ever mindful of the profound power within us all. Friedrich Nietzsche's The Will to Power delves into the complex interplay between power, morality, and the human spirit. It challenges traditional values and encourages readers to transcend societal norms to realize their own potential. Here are some key actionable takeaways from the book. 1. Embrace the will to create ***. Nietzsche emphasizes the importance of creative power in shaping our destinies. To apply this, start incredibly small by dedicating a few minutes each day to a creative endeavor that excites you, be it writing, painting, or even problem-solving. Over time, this habit will nurture your ability to innovate and exert influence over your life path. 2. Question conventional morality ***. Nietzsche invites us to scrutinize the moral frameworks imposed upon us. Begin by being patient with yourself as you evaluate your personal beliefs and assess whether they align with your true values. This introspection can lead to a more authentic existence. 3. Cultivate inner strength. Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch suggests striving for self-overcoming and personal excellence. Apply this by setting realistic goals that stretch your capabilities, make small progress each day, and allow yourself the grace to grow gradually. 4. Live authentically ***. Nietzsche pushes us to live in accordance with our true selves rather than conforming to societal expectations. Start incredibly small by identifying one action each day that feels genuinely you, and build on this authenticity to construct a life rich with personal meaning. 5. Challenge your assumptions. The book encourages a constant reevaluation of one's beliefs. Practically, this means engaging in debates or reading diverse perspectives to expand your understanding of the world. Be patient with yourself as you embrace discomfort in challenging your worldview. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below with at least one idea from this book that stuck with you, one concept you're going to carry forward. It could be something that challenged your thinking, something you want to try, or even something you disagreed with. Your insight might be exactly what another listener needs to hear today. And if this summary gave you something valuable, a new perspective, a spark of motivation, or even just a peaceful hour with your coffee, share it with someone who might need it too. Subscribe to One Book, One Coffee, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a new summary. Every week, we sit down together with one great book, one warm cup of coffee, and the simple belief that wisdom, shared well, can change lives. Until next time, keep reading, keep growing, and remember, every small step counts. See you at the next book.